Good evening, everyone. I am Abdul-Azeez Microsoft Student Ambassador, Alpha. So I'll be talking about introduction to cloud computing and focusing on Microsoft Azure. In a few minutes, I'll share my slides and then we'll get started. Okay. Okay. So please indicate in the chat section if you can see my screen. Still waiting. Oh, wow. Okay. Please indicate in the chat section if you can see my screen. Oh, wow. Okay, okay. I was not saying that before, so let's get started without further ado. Yeah, introduction to cloud computing with Microsoft Azure. An overview of cloud computing and Azure in particular. As I introduced myself, I'm Alima. So yeah, what is cloud computing? Basically, like when people hear the concept of cloud, especially those who are new to the term, they do imagine it as probably some kind of strange term or very complex explanation. And the whole concept can be really, really confusing to a first timer. Cloud computing is basically the renting of resources like storage space, files, CPU cycles on another company's computer. Like you are renting the use of resources in a different remote location rather than hosting it on your own or having it, you are resourcing it out, you are getting it from something else, from somewhere else. Now, companies that provide these cloud computing services, they are referred to as cloud providers. For example, we have Microsoft, we have Amazon, and we have Google. Microsoft, for instance, has Azure. Amazon has the Amazon Web Services, that's AWS, and Google has GCP, Google Cloud Product. So all there is to know about cloud computing is just like carrying out common computing services, like a web developer who needs to host his website or a system administrator who needs to manage users in an organization. Instead of doing it on their own or providing the resources to maintain all those kind of needed space, they resource it out to somewhere else. It is rented out. And these services are provided by cloud providers like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. So cloud computing services, like, okay, what are these things that you stand to benefit from when you say you are moving from traditional kind of computing, that's the normal kind of computing that we know, to cloud computing? The cloud provider is responsible for the physical hardware required to execute your work and for keeping it up to date. Now, cloud providers like Microsoft, they provide services like compute power, just like I mentioned earlier, like web developers, the use of web apps, Linux servers, and various other computing resources that are needed by developers and system administrators, even users on their own, even end users. So another cloud computing service is storage. Storage of large files and database, either for backup purpose or just for storage purpose, like current storage purpose that are still being used, is another service that can be resourced out to cloud computing providers rather than managing them on your own. Also, networking. cloud providers, cloud computing services provide the means of like network and secure connections between cloud provider and your company. This works for something like a system administrator, for instance, who deals with identity and access management of users in an organization. The way cloud has made it really possible and easier to be able to manage these stuff. You don't have to set up, you don't have to spend on resources within your organization to secure connections or manage users. These are things that you can easily just rent out to cloud providers to do for you. Also, analytics, visualizing telemetry and performance data. This is especially useful for security professionals or organizations who want to monitor the kind of like data, the amount of data they generate on a daily, monthly, or yearly basis. Cloud computing services makes it so easy for you to be able to keep track of data and activities within your organization in a kind of visualized manner. You don't have to sort through large amounts of data. It handles it for you, and all you just see is like a visual representation in form of a dashboard or a chart that makes it easier to understand. So all of these cloud computing services actually can be useful for system administrators, for end users, for developers, and anyone across the office that just needs either storage, compute power, analytics, networking, and what have you. Benefits of cloud computing. The number one benefit is the fact that it is cost saving and efficient. How is it cost saving and efficient? When you use traditional computing, a company, for instance, if they were to host their own website on their own, they will have to build up their own server, pay for it. And as time goes on, if they have more users or more visitors to their website, they'll have to buy more server, increasing the cost that could have been used for something else. Now, aside the fact that cloud services makes this easier for you and takes away the whole spending that you have to do, it also provides a pay-as-you-go model. That is, you only pay for what you use. You don't have to pay for what you are not using. Let's say, for instance, a news website now publishes your organization, or a news website publishes your organization name, and then it drives a whole lot of traffic to your website. You know, people are checking you out. They want to know, okay, what's this company about? This company that was featured in the papers. You would know that, okay, there will be an increased amount of visitors to that website, right? But if you don't have the resource available to be able to take them, your website will crash. Unlike when you are when you are storing all of your resources in the cloud, it automatically upscales that and accommodate those people. So you only have to pay for that surge in number of visitors to your website. And then when you are back to your normal user level, automatically you don't have to pay for high cost. You just pay for your normal level 2 again. So it's a pay-as-you-go model, or what we call pay-as-you-use. You have to pay for just what you use, which makes it a whole lot more cost efficient than hosting these resources on your own in your own physical data center organization. So we have scalability and flexibility, just like I explained now using the newspaper illustration. The amount of resources that you need can be scaled up or scaled down. Like, let's say, for instance, you need more servers, or you need more virtual machines to be put up. It provides this kind of flexible model where you just have to, like, with a click right from the comfort of where you are, you can actually scale up. And then when you feel like, okay, you don't need all this excess amount of resources that are available, you can scale out also to reduce it. Elasticity, the increase or decrease in resources, same way. Also, the fact that it is accessible from anywhere. Cloud providers have data centers globally, like everywhere around the world. But you don't have to be there physically to actually have access to your data. You don't have to be there physically to back up your files, to store your files, or to manage your users. You can control it flexibly from the comfort of your home or your organization. That gives it an edge over traditional kind of computing where you have to be at the office physically to be able to handle stuff like that. Also, higher uptime percentage. Since this is something that cloud providers focus on, and they are the ones that actually, like, it is their job, that's all they have to do. They have enough time and resources dedicated to ensuring that your resources are always available to be used when you need them. So there is a higher uptime percentage compared to when you are the one handling it yourself. Organizations have a whole lot of roles to handle, and so there's the tendency to not really pay much attention to how your resources are doing. Okay, are the servers running 24/7? Is this happening? Is that happening? Is everything secure? When you source it out, it gives you a higher uptime. Like there is no sudden downtime, or this is just like the exact illustration that I gave earlier with the newspaper. Let's say you had that kind of surge in the midnight and nobody was present, or everyone in the organization was busy with something else. There is no way you'll be able to avoid a downtime with something like that. Unlike when it is resourced out to a cloud provider, automatically an increase in the number of resources that you need will be fixed without causing any amount of downtime to your website or resource, whatever you are using a cloud provider for. That's why most cloud providers like Azure, AWS, or GCP, they usually promise different uptime percentage per resource. Some have 99.99% of assured uptime, like, okay, this resource will be up and running 99.9% of time, and different ones. Also, the fact of maximum security, since it is what they are based on, you can be assured that it is totally secure. These are like part of the things that you signed up for with them, that they have to handle, that the cloud providers have to handle to ensure that your resources are secure. Like, let's say security administrator that is using cloud providers for identity and access management of users. You can be assured that there is nothing like a leakage of your users' details or confidential information that you store in your cloud dashboard. So before we move on to types of cloud models that we have, is there any question on the benefits of cloud computing? I would quickly check. You can type in the chat section. Okay. Any question? Okay. I guess we can move on then. So types of cloud models. We have three types of cloud models. We have the public model, we have private model, and hybrid model. So okay, thank you. So when we are talking about these cloud models, it means like what forms of, when you say you want to move to the cloud, like you want to leave the traditional mode of computing, what sort of cloud methods can you say you want to adopt as an organization or as a user? And I already mentioned that we have three, right? We have the public model, we have the private model, and we have the hybrid model. Now, public model deals with the sharing of computing resources with other cloud users. That is what major cloud providers provide, like Azure, AWS, GCP. Computing resources are shared with other cloud users, although you don't know each other. But the fact that oh yeah, I need to debunk something also. When people say something is in the cloud, it does not mean that it is like in the cloud literally or lost somewhere. The cloud is just physical data centers. That's like where resources are kept and managed. Physical data centers that are spread globally. Then these people sell it out. It is just like, what kind of illustration can I give? Okay, it's just like, hey, like renting a house now. If someone decides to build a house and then start renting it out to people. So these cloud providers, they build data centers and start renting out resources to people. When you are using a public cloud model, a particular data center can actually be providing computing resources to several other organizations, but you don't know each other, but you're actually sharing the computing resources. Now, this does not mean that you're sharing each other's data or private information, just the fact that resources available in that data center are being shared with different organizations. Let's say like they have about 24 million servers present in that data center now. It's not just one organization that will be using those 24 million servers. It is shared among several other people. That's what a public cloud model is all about. Now we have the private cloud model. For the private cloud model, you have your cloud environment in your own data center. In your own data center as an organization, you are not sharing it with anybody else, just you. But everything is right there on the cloud and not available physically at your organization. Like, let's say we have what kind of organization is very, very, very common? Okay, something like Facebook now says, let's assume Facebook has a branch in Lagos, Nigeria, and they don't want to operate on a public cloud model. They want a private cloud model, like their own personal one. What they'll have to do is set up a cloud environment in a physical data center in any location of their choice within Lagos. Now, that data center belongs to them alone. If they have about 24 million servers, virtual machines that are available and can be used, it belongs to them only. They are not sharing it with anybody else. That we call private. Yeah, that's what we call private, a private cloud model. Lastly, we have the hybrid cloud model. Just as the name implies, the hybrid cloud model combines public and private clouds. That is, an organization can choose to actually manage some of their resources using a public cloud and some using a private cloud. Like, let's say, for instance, they can decide to set up their virtual machines now using the public cloud, set up virtual machines in public cloud, but use private cloud model for identity and access management of their users. That's hybrid because they are using public cloud model and they're using private cloud model. Before we move on, there's also something called multi-cloud, where you can have like two organizations can have two or more. Like, they can choose to have two public cloud models, probably like AWS and Azure, using them at the same time, or lots of private cloud model, more than one. It is multi-cloud. So yeah, we have public, we have private, and we have hybrid. GCP, AWS, and Azure are usually examples of public cloud model. Organizations who don't want to share their computing resources with other users can set up their own cloud environment in their data center. That is what they call a private cloud model. Hybrid combines public and private clouds together. Now, moving on, yeah, we have types of cloud services: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. I think the one we are most familiar with as end users will be software as a service. That's things like Gmail, OneDrive, Slack, Office 365, your Google Drive, and things like that. They're actually a software as a service because you are not the one responsible for how it is hosted, writing the code and everything. You just like log in and then you use it. That is all. So it is a software as a service. They are providing a service to you in form of a software. You need to send emails. There's a platform created called Gmail. You just have to log in. You are not in charge of managing it, right? So that's a software as a service. Now, platform as a service, that's usually associated with like developers, people who code, when they need to use things like virtual machines or to display their codes, host their codes. That's what platform as a service is for. And as depicted in the image on the left, for platform as a service, the cloud provider actually manages a whole lot of things, from runtime to operating system use to the virtualization, server, storage, and networking. You don't have to bother about all of that as a developer. The only thing you have to manage is your applications and data. Data here refers to like the information of people who use your platform. Let's say like you are hosting a website now, and you're using a platform as a service like Heroku, for instance. Developers or people who could be familiar with that very well, even if you're not so familiar with Windows as well. Heroku is pretty much popular in the development space. So you build an application or a software, and then you need to host it. Data of people collected, like login details, registration information, things like that, you are in charge of managing it and ensuring it is secure and available to use. The applications, definitely as a developer, you're the one building the application, so you have to manage that. But every other thing, everything in green, is managed by the provider. Lastly, we have infrastructure as a service. This is usually associated with system administrators. Yes, because they are the one that have to do with managing users and platforms, also ensuring access management, being an organization who has access to what, who can access what information, things like that. Example of infrastructure as a service are web servers, DigitalOcean. I think developers too sort of will be familiar with that. Then Microsoft Azure on its own. So under infrastructure as a service, the cloud provider just manages the virtualization, server, storage, and networking, like how everything is connected together, the users. But the system administrator or whoever is subscribing to infrastructure as a service would be the one to manage applications, data, like that's people's data, but probably employees' data in an organization, runtime, middleware, and operating system. So like those are the types of cloud services that you can choose to opt for if you want to move to the cloud. Probably it's just software as a service you want to get, or platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service. Microsoft Teams on its own is also an example of a software as a service because we have organizations who sign up to use Teams, right? Just like Slack too. Yeah, I think people are more familiar with Slack sometimes. When organizations have their Slack channel, that use of that Slack channel, they are indirectly subscribing to cloud services. And the cloud service they are using is software as a service. So when you join an organization Slack, indirectly you're using the cloud service. Okay, so we are done with types of cloud services. Before we move to Azure, is there any question? This should be a 1 hour session. And I'm expecting questions before we move on. Any question? In regards to cloud concept and the mode of operation of Facebook marketing, scaling upon resources and pay as you go, can I say Facebook is working a kind of cloud concept? Okay, about the scaling of resources. Yes, Facebook is actually operating on a cloud model, but theirs is a private cloud model, sort of. Example of organizations that we can say are using public cloud is Netflix. Netflix is using AWS, Amazon Web Services. But you can also run a Google search. But with the kind of scaling up and down, Facebook is using a cloud service. But I think theirs is private, not public, because of the large amount of listeners they have. So any other question? Okay. Yeah. So I guess we can move on to Azure, or a brief recap. Basically, all we've said about cloud computing, the definition, what cloud providers are, cloud computing services, like services that cloud providers provide. Yeah, cloud providers provide. The benefits of cloud computing, elasticity, accessible from anywhere. Types of cloud models that we have, public, private, hybrid. Then the types of cloud services, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, which is the most familiar one. Now, introduction to Azure. Microsoft Azure. Just like I explained earlier, it is a public cloud platform and it is provided by Microsoft. Equal examples that we have are AWS, Amazon Web Service, owned by Amazon, and Google Cloud Platform, owned by Google. That's GCP. So just like the definition of cloud computing and everything we've been discussing, Azure allows businesses and organizations to build, deploy, and manage their applications and services in the cloud for free or on pay-per-use on demand basis. Yes, they're actually free. I'm coming. What's the next? Okay, benefits. I'm coming. I think we'll have a preview first before we move on to the benefits. They're actually free services available on Microsoft Azure too, although they are very, very limited. And when I say free, it does not mean like they're starting from zero level. When you have to sign up on Azure, they provide free credit to users that I think 200 credit to new users. Then if you are signing up with a student's email, that's 150 credits, 150 credits. So you can basically, that's still like free, although the amount of resources that you deploy is still on a pay-per-use basis. Like if you deploy a virtual machine, it has a particular amount that it will take for, that will be measured for the amount that you use. But it's an example of a public cloud platform. And okay, yeah, let's quickly check a preview of the Azure dashboard. Portal.azure.com. This is my own dashboard like this. To set it up, I'll send, after the event, I'll send a link, because if we say we should start looking at how to set up Azure, it will take a whole lot of time like this. I'll send the link to an article that actually contains step-by-step explanation of the whole this thing. I'll send it to either this chat or via mail to those that provide via mail. Then MLSA footer people, I'll drop it on the group. Yeah, this is the Azure dashboard, and these are examples of resources that you can deploy. I'm coming, create. So you can deploy a virtual machine, a web app, database for those that are into SQL. Function apps, Key Vault, Data Factory, Logic apps. You can also use Microsoft Azure for automation purpose. This is still like, okay. Servers, Windows 7 Enterprise, Windows 10 Pro, Windows 10 Pro, and all of that. There are a lot of resources. There are a whole lot of resources that you can deploy on Azure. But this is basically what it has to offer: AI plus machine learning, analytics, blockchain, database, developer tools, DevOps guys. Then identity, just like I mentioned, identity and access management, although this is usually used by system administrators of organizations. Then we have IoT, media, mixed reality, networking, security, storage, and web. Now, each of these sections actually have sub-resources that you can deploy on them, a whole lot, especially the security aspect, which I'm familiar with. But if you explore Azure, you find out there are a whole lot of things that you can do with it. It actually saves more. Let's go back to our slides. Yeah, so introduction to Azure. What are the benefits of Azure? We have scalability and flexibility, just like every cloud attribute. You are free to scale up your resources or scale them out. And it is very, very flexible to do. You have to go to a physical location to be able to add or remove resources. What else? Security. Azure provides a whole lot of security options. Even security recommendations are available on Azure dashboard. There is a way you can actually configure or set it up to notice trends in your security activities, and it will then provide recommendations or things it thinks you can do to ensure a more secure use of resources like compliance and legal distance. Then you can also set policies too on Azure to filter out IPs, to allow particular IPs, firewalls, and things like that that you can deploy locally. They can also be done just from one dashboard, like that's the Azure dashboard I just showed. Global availability. Microsoft has a whole lot of data centers globally. They are just available. So from Nigeria or any country that you're joining in from, you can deploy a resource. You can host a server and several other things. You can host a website. The fact that it is available everywhere, like it's available globally, it can be accessed by anyone at any time from anywhere. Also, it is cost effective. The pay-as-you-go model actually helps with this. Like it helps you save money instead of wasting like money on resources that you're not using. Let's say you deploy a machine once and then you don't need it again. Instead of being debited or you have to keep paying. There are some things that you just have to like keep paying for resources even when you are not using it. Let's say for instance you rent a shop now. Whether you sell or not, you have to pay your yearly fee, right? There's nothing like that on Azure. So it enables organization have this kind of group it under something like an operational expenditure. Since you only have to pay for what you use, it is not a capital expenditure where you have to, okay, this is also amount we have to pay it for cloud computing every year or every month. You just have to pay for what you use. There's no fixed price like this is a subscription model or something like that. No. Also, yeah, integration and automation. Azure actually makes it very, very flexible for you to integrate it with other things like the use of AI, ML, IoT, and things like that. You can also integrate it with, let's say you have an on-site data center. When I was explaining that you can have an hybrid model, this is an example of what makes it possible. You can actually integrate or connect your off-site data center to your Azure account or Azure portal, and it will work and connect with everything so well. You can have some users' data stored off-site or is offline, and then you can have some stored online. If you should like integrate and connect both together, you'll be able to successfully manage access and registration of users on both the off-site and the on-portal dashboard so well. Then innovation, the fact that Azure actually enables you to use resources like machine learning, artificial intelligence, IoT, things like that. Provides a means for innovation, like that is not just centered on the use of cloud or normal native organization things. You can integrate AI tools, ML tools, Internet of Things as time goes on. So yes, we've talked about the benefit of Azure. Then the big question, I think we've been targeting organizations since. You as a user, what can you do with MS Azure, Microsoft Azure? Like that's the main thing everyone wants to know, right? How can it benefit me as a user and someone who is not partnered with an organization or a kind of business? Here are some of the things you can do with Azure. So you can develop and deploy applications in the cloud. Like you don't have to have a physical computing system to be able to develop and deploy applications. There is a remote platform available where you can actually write your codes and deploy them just right there on the cloud, and it will be accessible to everyone from anywhere, right there on Azure, on the Azure portal. Number two, you can use the virtual machines to run your applications. Instead of installing, I don't want to mention, instead of installing software, yes, software to run your virtual machines. Like some people can have a whole lot of density amount of virtual machines that they need, and probably their computing space on their computer, on their physical computer, won't be able to handle it, probably because of disk size or RAM and things like that. They can be a constraint. So Azure makes it easy for you to deploy as much virtual machines as possible without running out of space. Also, there are some times where you just need a virtual machine for a short period of time and you don't want to install them on your system. Since nothing that is deleted on system is permanently deleted, it will still like there's still that space that's been taken and not deleted completely. So you can just use a virtual machine to run something as fast as that. And there is no fear of like your data will be lost after then. It is always available on the Azure dashboard since it is stored in a remote location. Yeah, you can also use the AI and machine learning services available with MS Azure. Let's say you are someone who is training to be an ML engineer and you need, and your physical computer cannot actually handle the computing requirements for running some of the heavyweight software that you use. You can run all of this on Azure, on the Azure portal, and just pay for what you have to use. And then if you're a student, you get access to use for free then. You can build and manage IoT solutions using IoT Hub, Event Grid, and Stream Analytics. You know, when I showed the Azure portal and I was saying like each of those sections actually has sub resources that you can use under them. For instance, now the Internet of Things section, we have IoT Hub, Event Grid, Stream Analytics, and several other things that you can use under it. That's like another example of how big the whole Azure platform is. Then lastly, although there are a lot of things, but like to avoid crowded slides, these are just 5. Can host websites and applications using Azure App Service. As I don't know if you've been as app services, web app services. Web app services are usually like web apps, web applications. Web applications can be run on the cloud using Azure App Service. Everything you need to do is right there. You don't have to like pay for extra computing resources to use physically in your location. You can do everything that you need to do remotely, and it will be hosted in a remote location. Azure Functions, we have Azure Kubernetes Service. The DevOps people will be familiar with Kubernetes. What else? So introduction to Azure, benefits of Azure, what you can do with Azure, and yes, lastly, okay, I think we'll have enough time for question and answers. There are a lot of things that can be explored using Azure, but you can't cover them all year like this. So if you need to do further learning on it, that won't even take much time at all. You can sit for the AZ900 certification exam given out by Microsoft. So the exam is basically, it covers the foundational knowledge of Azure cloud services and how they can be used to improve business operations. There is nothing technical about it, and it is very, very fundamental. Like, yeah, it's intended for individuals who are new to cloud computing and Azure. So if you have no previous experience using Microsoft Azure or any cloud computing service, is a now certification can actually help. Learning materials for the certification exam is available on Microsoft Learn website. I'll be sharing a link to the Microsoft Learn website. I think I should share that in the chat section now. And aside that, there are ways where the exam actually costs, I think, $99, but there are ways you can get it for free. I would include it in the link I'll be sending much later, how you can get the certification exam for free and sit for it. It is not really much. It is objectives and I think within 80 minutes. Yes. Everything you need to know, like learning material from introduction to cloud computing. It's available on, I think I can open it. It's available on the website. This is it, MS Link. I will copy the link now and share. Okay. And yeah, this is basically what the exam covers: cloud concepts, Azure architecture and services, Azure management and governance. And that's all. What is the price? Yes, $99. But you can get it for free. I'm coming. I would have to like buy those out and share the link much later. So yeah, this is the link for the certification exam. Okay. Yes, thank you, boss Shedrack. So how do you know if it is time to move your, wait, I saw that question now. Okay. How do I know if it is time for me to move my business to the cloud? Every business with time, the amount of resources that they have, like their demand is usually like higher than what they can take care of. If either that you're actually spending more to provide to scale up your business faster. Like let's say for instance, now you have a website and every day there are increased number of users to the website. You know, it crashes like if the hosting provider can't handle it anymore. So something like that, you can actually move it to be deployed on the cloud instead. And also as an organization where you see that your user access management is becoming too much for just one person to handle for you offsite. So something you can easily do or allocate to a cloud provider to handle for you. Let's say, for instance, now in a company, you usually receive like phishing emails on a high basis. You know, it will be very like stressful for you to start. Okay, let me just join it. For you to start canceling out every, for you to start canceling out every kind of phishing emails that are coming in, for you to start, okay, don't take this, don't, God, block this IP address manually. But if it is on the cloud, all you have to do is just set a filter, this thing like, okay, filters also IP addresses or IP addresses that have similar tendencies. Then stuff like that can be easily controlled and managed when you get to that point or that stage. But the best time to actually move to the cloud is now. A lot of organizations are developing. We have IBM and Huawei also coming up, like, and everything is going so, becoming so competitive and oh, now is the best time. Do we have any other questions? We are basically done with everything now in the slide. Do you need this skill as a data analyst? Yes. As a data analyst, you need this skill because just like I mentioned earlier, some of the benefits of Microsoft Azure in particular, there is the opportunity for you to be able to analyze and for you to be able to analyze data on a day-to-day basis, like analytics, things that actually have to do with visualization and telemetry, you know, getting performance data. Like let's say for instance, now you need to understand how let me say it from a security viewpoint. So there is an organization and there are usually some kind of threats that they are targeted with. With time, you would want to study, okay, what kind of threat are we hit with? What are the likely causes? Are we attacked through phishing and stuff like that? Or just understand the nature of the threats and know how to block them? I believe like this is like a general data analysis too. They analyze data to be able to solve problems, right? Microsoft Azure provides you with that platform to be able to learn and do it because we have data fundamentals and different aspects under Azure. So there are certification exams for that also, and they're also free for students. You can check the Microsoft Learn website link that I shared earlier to get them. Okay, I've stopped screen sharing. So any more question? Is it possible to run 3D rigging on Amarachuku? Actually, it is not just students that can get it for free. As a professional, you can also get it for free by attending Microsoft virtual day events. But that is for fundamentals exam, like introduction to data, introduction to AI, and also introduction to cloud. I'm coming. Let me get the link to Microsoft virtual training days and I'll share it now. So you can just sign up for a virtual training day. You join the training day, then afterwards you get your examination voucher. That is if you are not a student. But if you are a student, students can also use virtual training days. But if you are a student, it's actually you can use your school. You can use your school mail to get 100% discount of the certification exams. Okay. So this is the link for the virtual training day. Skills to become a cloud developer. There are no previous skills that are needed, actually. Anyone coming from any field can actually start, but I would advise that you start with things like certification exams because they provide you with learning paths. They provide you with learning paths that you can use to get started, help you understand. And with time, these learning paths, you learn from it, learn the fundamentals and things that are needed. Even from learning introduction to cloud, you can branch out to going into DevOps, ML, AI, and things like that. But like you have to learn more and build more on it. That's just it. Student email gets you for just fundamentals, not all certification exams, for just the fundamentals. Oh yes, like Shola Kumi said, to digital skills training offered by Microsoft and Nigerian governments. I'll share all of this relevant link in a while because I'll have to like collate everything. Market value for cloud developer in Nigeria. They're actually gaining ground also because every company nationwide and internationally are moving to the cloud. And a whole lot of people are moving there now because it's like hot cake. Everyone wants to know about the cloud. Companies are moving, the fact that it is cost effective and it saves more money is making them like move there. So they are in high demand presently in Nigeria, basically. I would advise you start from the Z900 learning material. Then you can check it out to learn and grow more. Or if you feel like it's not something that aligns with your personal mission of learning, then there's no problem. That's the best. So any more question before we end the meeting? What else? Okay, I guess that's all.